You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Rolling. Don't use any of this. Don't.
Okay, carry 3.
They love you. You know.
This is Princess Leia Organa. You're listening to Planet Leia.
Permission is granted to land on Planet Leia. Brought to you by Fantha Tracks. Here are your hosts, Clair Henry and Johanna Nybelius.
Let's go to Ahsoka. When did we get to meet her first?
It's just a child who is thrown out onto the battlefield. And of course, also in the Clone Wars, you have the Bad Batch with Omega. So you have even more children there.
Ratty, preteen, snips, but developed into a really great character. And so you kind of did see her trajectory. And you know what? That's just children. Children are bratty teenagers. Well, most of them are, aren't they? They've all got their little issues and that sort of stuff. But would my teenager daughter be as heartfelt or as passionate about stuff? No. The only thing she would ever be passionate about is makeup and hair, etc. So in a way, they are kids, but they have to grow up pretty quickly in the Star Wars universe, which I think these kids from the Skeleton Crew are definitely going to, I think that we're going to see a trajectory. Maybe one of them we'll find out is something somewhere else in the new sequels.
I think it was John Watts who mentioned that they do have a plan. I mean, nothing is clear really, but if there will be a second season, they do have a plan. And also in that case, they would catch up with it after a few years. So it would be logical that the children have aged if we get to meet them again. So they do have a plan for that, which I like. It was specifically noted, like in Stranger Things, where you go from one season to the next, and it's supposed to be 2 weeks, and then the actors have aged several years, and they do have a contingency plan. If they get the season 2, there will be a logic to why they have aged. If you talk about the whole in-universe story, I mean, a lot of it depends on what's going on with their planet.
Yes, and what this secret is, or this barrier is that they can't go beyond. It has the touches of WandaVision in a way. Did you watch WandaVision?
No, I didn't watch WandaVision.
So again, this perfect Stepford Wives sort of place, but actually it's a dome that's set up by, Wanda to make this perfect life type thing. It does have a bit of a smattering of that about it, the Skeleton Crew. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure we're going to find out more about it. I'm just thinking about all the different children that we saw. Do you remember we see at the end of The Last Jedi, and it finishes with this random child
using the Force?
Yeah. Who is that child? Where are they from? What are they going? Specifically honing in on children. Is that a subliminal message which is saying, come on, you old farts, it's time to let children take on this, and you lot need to take it by the wayside or whatever. The new set of films finished with the child.
Yeah. And
I was Googling and looking desperately to see if we could see anything about this, but nothing. Just this child appears randomly at the end, and nobody, excuse me.
I mean, it is a galaxy, and of course we are following the adventures of... It wouldn't be interesting to have a child who's just sitting in school doing nothing all day, but in a way, I would like it to be some kind of Jumanji story. They get thrown into this adventure thing, but once they've finished playing, they are back to their old selves. And especially with the new Jumanji films, where you have they have the bond of having done things together, but it's not like they are stuck together and they will keep on doing adventures until they have to, because they get thrown into the games again.
What I'm glad it isn't is I'm glad it's not Stranger Things. I'm glad it's not a sort of a Scooby-Doo adventure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it wasn't for those pesky kids, the janitor would have got away with it. I'm glad that it's not that sort of a flow either. I feel that they've hit the head with pirates, and I think they've hit the mark with this loosely based force sensitive person. I think they've given themselves a lot of scope with it all and made it quite an interesting journey to that place, if that makes sense.
Hi, this is Julie Dolan, the voice of Princess Leia, and you're listening to Fanthetrax. It's your only hope.
The next thing that's going to feature a child in it is going to be the Mandalorian, isn't it? And Grogu. Now become one of the most famous children in the Star Wars.
But that's also the thing. I mean, he's a toddler, even if he's old. I mean, he behaves like a toddler. He's cute, but he's cute. And he can do the Force things. But I mean, that would also be interesting to see him growing up and see what would happen.
That alien lives for, what, hundreds of years?
Yeah.
So when does he hit his teenage years? He can't hit it for maybe 200 years. Well, by then, the Mandalorian will be dead and gone. So,
If he's now Force sensitive, but he's rejected the Force training, I mean, I have a feeling that he's very strong in the Force. It would also be interesting to see how he grows up. Unlike Luke and Leia, who didn't know how to use the Force until they were actually trained about it. I mean, he can use the Force in a way, even if it's not quite controlled. Would be interesting to see a teenager with Force, but without any knowledge about how the dark side, the light side, and so on.
It's not going to be like a Groot thing where we see baby Groot and then we see teenage Groot and we've seen adult Groot. We're not going to get that, are we? Well, we shouldn't if they are going to follow the sort of timeline for teenage lifespan. I think we're going to continue to see a little bit of a toddler behavior, maybe the terrible twos, but we kind of sort of see that already in a way. It is funny when you just look at the whole of the universe. Children are splattered amongst it in a way that you don't actually think about. All the children that we know, we've seen them grown up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Might not have been in our chronological order, but we've seen, except for Luke Skywalker, as you say, we've seen all their sort of trajectories from it. I mean, who had the potential to dip one way or the other? The biggest child of all, I suppose, is Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
And I know that there was a lot of criticism about his character in The Phantom Menace. And I know we've talked about that the Phantom Menace publicity was probably the best campaign that we'd seen.
It's hard writing children, and it's hard to get children acting well. And I would never blame a child actor on that, because people who want to write children should really have the skills to do it, but not everyone has. But so far in Skeleton Crew, it seems like they do have the skills to actually both take care of and coach and direct the children and to have believable characters.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the successful films that have had children in it, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And you see that developed amongst it, and that you've seen the chronology and the development of them over. And I suppose that's because you've grown up with them, whereas that isn't the case in Star Wars. It's pocketed around, as you said, by different actors or different writers, like it was in the Legends. It wasn't necessarily cohesive, but I think they've got better at it. Anakin, his development was clunky, but everybody knew who Anakin was going to grow up to be. So it's very hard to write about a child that you already know what they're going to be like as an adult.
Yeah.
Because everybody would have their expectations about that. Everybody would have their expectations of, hey, well, he's going to be the most powerful, evilest man in the world. Therefore, you can do one of two things. He can be a real toe rag and a little terrible horror, or he can be a cutesy, lovable, great kid who then turns evil. But how do you make him evil?
And there you have also with Princess Leia in Kenobi. I mean, she was acting too old for her age. We know what Leia is going to end up with. And Leia was, I mean, she was a senator at 16 or whatever. So, I mean, you have that. And I can buy it because it is this fantasy setting that we do have in space, but did not act her age.
She definitely was a young Carrie Fisher in A New Hope. She was brilliant at it. Would we have expected young Leia to be any different?
No.
But again, that was because it was small snippets in a TV series, I think, spanned over 3 movies.
Yeah.
That's a bigger challenge. That's where they kind of lost their way with Anakin a bit.
And once again, George Lucas had a great idea, but he needed some help with the scripts for especially episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be honest with that. His ideas were great, but the scripts could have been polished and the characterization could have been done better.
Because the elements were all there.
Yeah.
And the storyline was plausible.
Yeah.
And the Boba Fett storyline was plausible too.
Yeah.
It actually probably worked better in many respects than the Anakin Skywalker one did.
Yeah.
You're sort of thinking to yourself, how on earth did they write Boba Fett in? Well, I mean, in Star Wars, they can write anybody into anything, can't they? The other one that that popped into my head, I was looking at it. You see them in Return of the Jedi.
You have the Ewok children.
Oh God! You know what? They're just too cute. I forgot about them. I was talking
learning
about
how to eat humans, becoming grown-up killer bears.
Killer bears. Well, they're gremlins, aren't they?
Yeah.
Basically, they're like the movie The Gremlins, aren't they? Look at those little tiny cute little babies.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Oh, and I tell you who we see in their teenage years as well. Han Solo.
Yeah, we see his teenage years. He's the young,
teenage years and what his teenage years were like.
Yeah, there you could, of course, also develop that even more. I mean, growing up in the lowest parts of Corellia, learning how to ride all the vehicles, that could definitely be. I mean, and you could do it quite kid-friendly as well. Kira and Han having adventures, learning to do stuff.
The list is, and it's not endless, but you know what I mean. There are just so many things in it. I mean, if you were to look at all the different, you could turn it on its head. And of course, we're looking at it from an adult's point of view. We're looking at it from an adult's point of view, looking for children. But actually, children themselves, there is so much now for children to do. But I just don't think they've managed it right. There's a thing on Disney Junior, which is called The Young Jedi Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant. It's a little Jedi thing, but it's got the big cute eyes that my daughter used to be involved in. It seems to be really cute and they all like it, but it hasn't taken off. Like, let's say, for example, there's a thing at the minute that's gone mad with a lot of the kids in my school called Bluey, or Jake and the Neverland Pirates, or something like that. They just haven't managed to market that bit yet to young kids. And I don't know how, and I don't know how they get to do that more. But I know that they say that there's new and up and coming fans coming from like the new sequels and that sort of stuff. I hope so, because they're not getting it at the younger ones. But like, I became a fan when I was 4 or 5. I became a fan really 1977. 4 or 5 years old. So I was a fan from then. That's near as close to 50 years a fan of something. They haven't got. I don't know whether they have or not. I suppose only time will tell. Will the legacy of Star Wars continue as it has done? I think that's going to be an interesting one. From what I can see in school, I know that kids like Star Wars. When they come into my office, they see all the Star Wars stuff and they recognize it. But I don't know whether they recognize it because of what they're watching, or is it because their family is watching?
Their family is watching that. Yeah.
There's an elder member in it. It would be an interesting thing to find out. I hope it takes off. I hope Skeleton Crew does for Star Wars what I think it's hoping to do.
Yes.
It needs to pop up on, I don't know whether you've noticed this or not, about, like on the recommended things. This needs to pop up on people's recommendeds. That's the only way now. Like my daughter, for example, gets all her TV programs. It's because this popped up on my recommended, so I'm going to watch that now. Star Wars needs to start popping up onto other people's ones, otherwise it's going to be lost.
I guess we can only hope that will happen because it is good enough. And I also think Star Wars is an ageless story, so it will survive and it will find new fans, but really we can only hope that a lot more fans will find these new ones and keep developing the Star Wars galaxy in all kinds of new directions.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing how the Skeleton Crew ends.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting time of year, I think, for it to go on. It did launch at Thanksgiving. It's quite a busy time.
But it's also the time of year when you're off school, you need something to watch. And if enough episodes have come out before the school ends for the semester, I mean, then it's a great adventure to watch with the family in the sofa.
You're right. It is a binge watchable one because I'm not going to lie, I did watch all 3 episodes. I saved it up so that I had 3 episodes to watch in one go. That's the easiest way to do it, really.
Yes.
Let's see where they take us with their shiny Republic credits.
Yes.
I quite like them. I thought they were quite nice, the gold ones, to be fair.
Yes, I hope we'll get them as some kind of souvenirs. So yeah.
Hi, this is Samantha Aline, the first female stormtrooper in Star Wars, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
What's ahead then? Any Star Wars events or any things coming up?
Not really, but I have decided I'm gonna try and work more on my costumes that I haven't finished in like these long costumes that I never finished. Now I really want to finish my female Tusken, and I might have bought some new parts for my Enfys Nest costume, so maybe I should start working with that one as well. It's been 6 years since I touched anything on it, so that's my goal for next year.
Brilliant. Well, my New Year's resolution last year was to go up and sort out my Star Wars collection. I didn't manage to do that yet, so that is my New Year's resolution for this year, is to get up those loft ladders, bring it all down and try and catalogue it, sort it out and decide what I'm going to do with it, because there's so much.
I should also say, my husband tried to get me a Star Wars advent calendar, but apparently they were sold out when he got there. And when he asked what he could get, it was the closest to Star Wars. So I have a dinosaur calendar aged 3 to 5 year olds. I'm guessing he didn't say that the calendar was for his 40+ wife and not for a 5-year-old boy. So I have a dinosaur calendar, but it was supposed to be a Star Wars calendar.
If you imagine hard enough, Johanna, it's a Rancor. There you go. There's another one. Baby Rancors or something like that.
Yeah.
Just imagine them at that instead. So that's my New Year's resolution. But I will be taking my Ray goggles and my X-Wing pilot helmet off skiing in the new year. That's what I'm going to do. So you'll see me hitting the slopes of France at some point with them on it. But I'm really trying my best not to buy anything because it's creaking and groaning in that loft. That's my New Year's resolution is for that one. But yeah, was it the Lego Star Wars that he tried to get you?
I don't know. I guess I haven't seen any other than this Lego Star Wars, and so I guess it was.
Well, the thought was there, Johanna, wasn't it?
Yeah, the thought was there.
Nice. Well, let's summarise children in Star Wars, shall we? Skeleton
and they would probably be happy for a dinosaur calendar.
Summarising children in Star Wars, the Skeleton Crew seem to be quite normal children in a funny sort of weird sort of way. And every other child in Star Wars, basically, if they were in the education system in England, would be under a child protection order. All sorts of different categories and various reasons why. So actually, just carry on doing what we're doing and pretend it didn't really happen. Isn't that what they're saying? It has been a pleasure talking Star Wars with you again.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links at fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fanthatracks TV and Fanthatracks Radio. Thanks to James Sample for the Fanthatracks intro and our Planet Leia opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes arrive on Fridays at 7 p.m. UK time as part of the Friday night rotation, and our weekly video show Good Morning Tatooine goes live Sundays at 9 p.m. UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fanta Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
So make sure you listen and watch as often as you can. We will be back hopefully end of January, start of February for Star Wars Podcast Day. Potentially then we will be deciding what on earth did they do to those poor children in the skeleton crew. Who knows? Well, thanks ever so much for listening, everybody.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.
We love you.
You know. I'm happy to be on the ride.
Yes. Keep the party clean there, Johanna.
Yeah.